I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. I grew up in a small town north of Knoxville, Tennessee, La Follette, Tennessee. But that's in East Tennessee, the Green Mountainy part. My mother named me Jo for the character Jo from the book Little Women. That was her favorite book and her favorite character. And Allison was the first name of my mother's best friend. I grew up in a part of town that was nicknamed Tally Town because in my part of town, that is where, when my great-grandparents came to the United States from Italy, all of the Italian immigrants lived in the same part of town. So Lobertini is my maiden name. I didn't change my maiden name when I got married. I grew up surrounded with people that I knew, literally surrounded by family. All of my grandparents lived there, aunts, uncles, cousins. I could walk into any house for 2 blocks and was probably related to somebody there. My father owned a block plant, a company that my great-grandfather had started, and it had passed down through my great-grandfather to my grandfather to my father. My mother was the first elected official in our county. She was elected to be a county commissioner, and then she was later elected mayor of our town. My father was more outgoing, more fun. My mother was the one that made sure we could all read and write before kindergarten. So it was a good mix. When I was a child, I was bookish, a nerd. I read all the time. I was very dreamy. I was always someplace else in my head. I was the child that you had to try to get my attention because I was always thinking about something or thinking about what I had read. And I was also very empathetic to other people and animals. I would cry very easily. If I saw a commercial that made me sad, I would cry. My role models were my mother and, my mother's mother and my father's mother. They were all very strong women who made good things happen, and they made good choices. And then my mother's mother had grown up with a fierce desire for education, but she had to go to work when she was 13 or 14 in a factory, and she was never able to finish high school, but she insisted that all 3 of her children would go to college. The examples that had been set for me by my grandmother and my mother, it would have been easy to have gotten married and not gone to college. For an undergraduate, I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Something that I discovered about myself that I hadn't known is that I was very competitive academically. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized that that was okay. I wanted to be an English professor. I knew I wanted to stay in higher education because I absolutely loved it when I was a student. I intended to be an English professor. I was majoring in English. I was working on my master's of English and was a graduate assistant. And half of my class was filled with adults. I was teaching a remedial or developmental composition course because that's where all the graduate teaching assistants got the worst job, and that was the worst job. Within about 2 weeks, I had fallen in love with my adult students, with their struggles and their things that they had overcome to get to college and stay in college. So I completed my master's degree and had been accepted into an English PhD program. And I realized that I didn't want to do that. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with adults. So I have an EDD in higher education leadership. My husband is Paul Maria, and we're the opposite of each other. He's the most intelligent, fun person that I've ever met. And when we met, it was kind of instant for both of us. And we've been married about, a little over 10 years now. I have 2 children. My son Leland is 25. I have a daughter, Emily, and she's just turned 19. If I could tell my younger self something, it would probably be something like buy stock in Apple. On a non-monetary side, I would tell myself that perfection is overrated and that you don't have to strive for perfection in everything that you do. I would like them to remember that they were very loved and that I was intentional in mothering them and encouraging them and taking care of them.